Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Lori Johnson. President Obama struck a deal with the Taliban to earn his release. Now, Sergeant Bo Bergdahl is facing a court-martial. The U.S. soldier who was held hostage by the Taliban and then exchanged for 5 Taliban commanders has been charged with desertion and endangering U.S. forces. Bergdahl could go to prison for life. Dale Hurd has the story.
The return of soldier Bo Bergdahl was treated by the White House as the return of a hero. National Security Advisor Susan Rice.
The point is that he's back. He's going to be safely reunited with his family. He served the United States with honor and distinction.
We don't leave our men or women in uniform behind.
The president even invited Bergdahl's parents to the White House.
He wasn't forgotten by his community in Idaho or the military, which rallied to support the Bergdahls through thick and thin.
But the White House spin was falling flat immediately. Both Republicans and Democrats quickly criticized the president for trading 5 Taliban leaders for Bergdahl. Bergdahl had written letters to his father saying the title of U.S. soldier is just the lie of fools, and that he was ashamed to even be American. Fellow soldiers went public with their disgust.
He knew what he was doing when he deserted us.
And now, after a thorough investigation, charges of desertion with the intent to avoid hazardous duty, endangering his fellow soldiers, and misbehavior before the enemy.
Endangering the safety of a command, unit, or place carries a maximum potential penalty of a confinement for life.
This is only the latest problem for President Obama when it comes to the Middle East and radical Islam. The president has been roundly criticized for calling ISIS the JV team when it proved to be a deadly threat. Just a few months ago, he called Yemen a success story in the war on terror, but now Yemen is in chaos. And Mr. Obama has been feuding with Israeli President Netanyahu, even accused of working to prevent his re-election. Now that he wants a nuclear deal with Iran, the president doesn't have a lot of trust on Capitol Hill. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Today, Saudi Arabia launched airstrikes against Shiite Houthi rebels in Yemen.
I wanted to meet with you to inform you that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia launched military operations in Yemen. The objective is to defend the legitimate government of President Hadi from the takeover attempts by the Houthi militias in Yemen.
Footage of the military offensive shows flashing lights and what sounds like machine gun fire. A Saudi-owned news outlet reports that the kingdom has deployed 100 fighter jets and 150,000 soldiers, as well as other Navy units. And at the request of Iraqi leaders, the U.S. began airstrikes against the Islamic State in Tikrit. This video, released by the U.S. Department of Defense, shows blasts on a bridge said to be controlled by the Islamic State. The bombings mark a significant expansion of the U.S. military role in Iraq. The U.S. did not initially provide air support in Tikrit because Baghdad chose instead to partner with Iran in a battle it predicted would yield a quick victory. Audio recordings from the Germanwings flight crash revealed one of the pilots was locked out of the cockpit, and he tried desperately to get back in before the plane crashed into the French Alps. An investigator says they can hear one pilot leave the cockpit and his unsuccessful attempts to re-enter as the plane made its harrowing descent. The New York Times quotes one investigator saying, "You can hear he's trying to smash the door down, but there's no response from the other pilot." Aviation experts speculate the lone pilot either suffered a medical emergency or was committing suicide. 150 people, including 3 Americans, died in the crash. The State Department never had a permanent inspector general while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. The Wall Street Journal reports President Obama never put forward a nominee during Clinton's tenure, leaving only an appointee who had never been confirmed by the Senate. The inspector general serves as a watchdog who's supposed to find misconduct and waste. The Journal points out the department has been criticized for failing to archive the emails of Mrs. Clinton and other officials. The report comes amid questions about Mrs. Clinton not using an official email address while she was Secretary of State and refusing to turn over her email computer server to an independent inspector. A recent GAO report found that Planned Parenthood, America's largest abortion provider, spent $1.5 billion in state and federal funds from 2010 to 2012. That's an average of $500 million per year. Planned Parenthood affiliates and other pro-abortion groups received the funds to support federal health programs at their facilities. This report confirms what we suspected all along. Hard-earned taxpayer dollars continue to be used to promote abortions, said Representative Diane Black of Tennessee. Representative Black and Louisiana Congressman David Ritter are among those who called for the GAO report. They're also the authors of Title X Abortion Provider Prohibition Act, which would cut off federal funding to abortion providers. A ban on a common procedure for second trimester abortions is going to Kansas Governor Sam Brownback for his signature. The State House passed a bill outlawing the dilation and evacuation method, which involves dismembering a fetus in the womb and then removing the pieces. The procedure can still be performed if necessary to save the mother's life. The state Senate approved the bill last month, and the governor has promised to sign it. Abortion rights groups pledged to challenge the law in court. Well, we had a brutal winter weather-wise, and now spring is here, and already tornadoes are wreaking havoc across America's heartland. Moore, Oklahoma has been hit by its third tornado in 16 years. Check out this footage from tornadoes that caused extensive damage from Texas to Indiana. Damaging hail, also a part of this monster weather system. 60 people were trapped in a gymnasium. Same with the driver of a pickup truck. All were rescued.
I'm very fortunate. I hung upside down until somebody got here.
Looks like her roof over there and what's left of my roof up there and my patio cover.
My daddy was in the kitchen. The roof fell in on him, but I was in the bedroom.
Thousands of people are still without power in the wake of the storm. One of the most significant periods in Israel's history came during the Jewish exile described in the books of Daniel, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. We're now learning more about that time from ancient artifacts that are now going on display for the first time. Chris Mitchell brings us that story from Jerusalem.
By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept for Zion. Those are the words of Psalm 137, written when King Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem and carried the Judeans away captive to an area that's present-day Iraq. It's also the name of a new exhibit at the Babylonian Museum that Chief Curator Philippe Vukosavovich calls an incredible puzzle.
What we do here is for the first time tell a complete story of the Babylonian exile from approximately 604 BC when Nebuchadnezzar comes for the first time to the land of Israel up to 539 when Cyrus and the Persians conquer Babylon and release all the exiles.
Much of the information for this exhibit came from these clay tablets written in Akkadian in ancient cuneiform script. On display for the first time ever, they tell of daily life in Al-Yahudu, the city of Judah in Babylonia.
Probably next to the Dead Sea Scrolls and the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is the most important documentation that has ever been revealed.
Museum Director Amanda Weiss says it also opens a major chapter of Jewish history.
It's the thread that ties us to our ancestors.
Here we see an ancient tablet next to a modern one that tells the story. The texts talk about real people, exiled Judeans, and everyday life from rental agreements to tax issues.
One of these people is Haggai, son of Ahikam. I have actually chosen Haggai simply to narrate the story of the Babylonian exile that has never been told before.
In the exhibit, Haggai tells the story from the first exiles all the way to Babylon in 3 animated movies. Vukosavovich says he met Haggai in these texts.
I know his brothers, I know his father, I know his grandfather and grandmother. You know what? I know his great-grandfather. All of this through these new texts which nobody has seen before.
Weiss says one of her favorite parts of the exhibit is the model of the Al-Yahudu village.
We actually are showing interactively a scene in daily life, and you can see plowing the fields and rowing down the canals and the rivers and people cooking in their home fires in the evening and the date palm trees, and you get a sense of the cycle of life.
Part of what the tablets show is that the exiles lived prosperous lives and followed Jeremiah's command. Build houses and live in them, and plant gardens and eat their produce. Multiply there and do not decrease. And seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will have welfare.
So when in 539 Cyrus the Great and the Persians conquer Babylon, Cyrus simply releases all the exiles. Many decide to stay, like Haggai and his family. They had established lives. They had rich lives. They had their families. They had their schools. And only in 1950, 1952, following the establishment of the State of Israel, the state of Iraq simply expelled thousands and thousands of Jews. So just as they went with almost nothing, they returned with almost nothing. So that is a full circle of the Jewish people that were exiled and then returned after 2,500 years.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Bible Lands Museum, Jerusalem.
Up next, a new tool to fight dementia, why music may be the key to a better life for the elderly. Benny Hinn says he did not have a heart attack. CBN News reported yesterday that the evangelist had been admitted to the hospital last week after an outreach in Brazil. His daughter said in a statement that he was battling fatigue and having a hard time breathing. Now, Charisma magazine reports they've spoken with Hinn and his doctor. He and his doctor confirmed that he did not have a heart attack, but doctors did have to shock his heart to reset the rhythm. The procedure was successful. Well, sometimes hearing a special song instantly improves our mood and rekindles happy memories. And there may be scientific proof that music can even help people suffering from dementia. There's something about music that seems to bring nursing home patients with dementia out of their shells.
Mike, I'm gonna put your music on, okay?
Yeah.
For example, when 96-year-old Mike Knutson hears that big band sound, he taps his toes, claps his hands, and smiles.
The music really does something to wake him up and help him to be more engaged with what's going on around him.
Knutson is taking part in a study of 200 nursing homes, the results being analyzed by University of Wisconsin researchers.
This is a study that, to look at the effects of music listening on a number of the quality of life indicators for the people with the dementia in nursing homes.
Indicators like mood and memory, immediately and long term. The results of the study could mean music therapy will be added to traditional dementia therapy and could even take the place of some medications. But not just any music, songs the patient loves. Each person has a designated iPod loaded with their own unique playlist.
We've seen members who don't talk very much start to sing.
Because of the study, the Knutsons always make music a part of the time they spend with their father.
We feel as though we have been blessed with this whole new experience with Dad. We are able to connect in a completely different way, in a very genuine way.
And aside from music, there are other natural treatments for Alzheimer's and dementia, like diet and brain exercises. You can find out about those on our website, cbn.com. Well, coming up, a 16-year-old who was paying attention to her cell phone and not the road. Hear this survivor share her life-saving message. A new study from AAA's Foundation for Traffic Safety shows distracted driving is the top cause of teen accidents. Almost 1 million teen drivers were involved in a car crash in 2013, resulting in 383,000 injuries and 2,865 deaths. AAA reports researchers at the University of Iowa examined drive cam videos from nearly 1,700 of those crashes. It revealed that distracted driving led to more than 4 times the number of crashes than previously estimated from police police accident reports. In fact, it caused 6 out of every 10 car crashes for teens. The biggest culprit, other passengers distracting the driver, causing 15% of the accidents. That was followed by cell phone use, which contributed to 12% of the crashes. Other distractions include looking at something inside or outside the car, singing or dancing, and grooming.
We're hoping that our central findings of the study will make parents more aware of the magnitude of the problem and the potential for disaster.
And it's one thing to hear the statistics about distracted driving, but it's another thing to see the impact firsthand. Angela Zatopek brings us the story of one teenager whose life was changed forever in one instant on the highway.
Katie Matthews was a 16-year-old living in Venice, Florida. Then an accident changed her life forever.
It was a friend of mine's birthday party, and it was the type of party that my mother wouldn't let me go to, with drinking and late at night. So I called her and I lied to her. We both thought, driving on the interstate at night, what the chances of anything happening?
Katie's friend driving the car that night had only had her license for a few months. The girls were on their way to a party using their cell phone on speaker to get directions. Now, you wouldn't think that's distracting, but it was. Her friend realized she was about to miss their exit when she overcorrected the wheel, flipping the car 4 times.
As a parent, your worst nightmare is having the police officer come to your front door at 11:30 at night and let you know that your child is in a serious car accident. In this case, actually, Katie was the worst of the two.
When the roof collapsed on my head, it broke my C6, C7 vertebrae, which means I'm now quadriplegic. We were very blessed because off-duty paramedics happened to be driving the opposite direction, saw the whole thing, and got on us right away and saved my life.
Katie's friend survived the crash, suffering only a broken leg. Katie spent 5 weeks in the ICU, where 2 of which she spent in a coma. When she woke up, she couldn't remember her friends, family, or the last 3 years of her life, still believing she was 13 years old.
So I didn't believe my family was my family. I didn't believe they were who they said they were. I didn't believe the doctors were helping me. I actually thought that they were making me broken like I was. I thought I literally was in some form of hell. My brain just couldn't comprehend what happened. It took a long time for me to finally realize that this is my life. I started going into a depression, and I started just saying, how could this be my life? How could God have let this happen to me? And I became very angry with anything that contributed to the accident that I was in.
Facing life in a wheelchair, Katie and her mother, Shelley, decided they had 2 choices.
My mom and I had a heart-to-heart one night, and she just let me know, what's in the past is in the past. You cannot change that. You've got to let go of your expectations of what could have been and what you wanted for the past and start living the life that God has intended for you.
Determined to live a full life despite her injury, Katie met with Donna Marini, a quadriplegic who helps other victims develop independence.
Well, it helps to go out and get back out into the community and see people and do things.
Donna then connected Katie with Jim Strouser.
Neurorestorative is a rehabilitation facility for brain and spinal cord, traumatic brain and spinal cord facility. I worked with Katie a lot. You got to think outside the box. Katie's got many, many things adapted in her home that allows her to be independent, and she's been creative.
Katie showed us her home, introducing us to family and her service dog, Cowboy. She demonstrated just how out of the box her thinking has become.
Yes, give it. Good.
Oh my gosh.
I've created this room to become my pantry.
Katie is unable to move her hands, so she uses upper body strength and her mouth to perform a variety of tasks.
These are just a couple of simple things that we did by placing like a rubber band around there with like a zip tie. It allowed her to be able to grab a hold of it, pick it up. Her toothbrush was adapted with a special ADL cuff so that she's able to put it on her hand and hold it. Eyeliner and different things adapted, but she's progressed to a point where now she can do it by holding it in a different manner.
Since Katie's accident, distracted driving has only gotten worse. Now, it's not just sending a text message. It can be anything from either grooming your hair or changing the radio station. More than 1 million accidents happen per year involving a cell phone. That's why today Katie uses her platform to plead with other teens to just put the cell phone away.
This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I was in that crash that altered my life forever so that I can share with others so that they don't make the same mistake. So that, because I am so lucky to still be alive.
It's the motivation that she brings, and I see, the hand of God and those things, and what she's able to accomplish more than anything. That to me is very rewarding as a brother to see that of your older sister.
Today, Katie speaks to different groups about the dangers of distracted driving. For more on her story, visit cbnnews.com. I'm Angela Zatopek, CBN News.
And finally, researchers have come up with a new way to make chocolate healthier. A team from the University of Ghana has modified the way cocoa is turned into chocolate. The way it's done now, some of the antioxidants in cocoa beans are lost, but the researchers came up with better ways to roast and store the cocoa, and that preserves more of the healthy elements. The antioxidants can help with blood flow, memory, your heart, and cardiovascular system, and much more. And as a side benefit, the new process could also make chocolate taste sweeter, too. Time reports the researchers also say people should eat dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate because it has more antioxidants and less sugar. Well, that's all the time we have for now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.